Hi there. Thank you for visiting my channel once again. Please do not forget to press the subscribe button, give a thumbs up for like, leave a comment, and do share. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Now, this is the first video of 2 videos that I'll be doing on the mask. I always speak about the mask, and they're vitally important in discussing the truth that is reincarnation and its many facts. Now, these masks are the reasons and excuses that we use to love, to hate, commit atrocities, to seek and obtain power. Now, this is usually our main goal on earth, and we'll be discussing that as well, and the reason why we're here on this earth. This is what got us into problems. Now, before we begin our discussion, I will reintroduce myself. My name is Winifred Davis. I am a psychic medium shaman, a traditional and spiritual counselor and healer, and I have been for the past 37, almost 38 years. I'm also a poet, essayist, author, and a former, I should say, I don't do it anymore, former spoken word movement performer. I subscribe to no religion. I speak about some religions, but I subscribe to none. Religion, the world could do without religion. It makes a lot of problems. Now, I believe in universal justice and truth. With the imposter justice of man, there is an exception to every rule, but with universal justice, there are no exceptions to its rules. And the truth, well, there's no my side, your side. The truth stands unopposed. I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm not here to lead anyone or anything. And I don't want anyone to lead me. As I said, I'm not here to convert anyone. My duty is to my conscience, only to my conscience. And the conscience is that light that I was given at creation to guide the free will. Each of us was given free will and a conscience, the light to guide that free will at creation. It is that conscience, that light, that links us back to our Creator. That is why, that conscience, that guide, is why each of us is responsible for our own actions. We cannot blame our king, our president, our general, the bully, our parents. Each of us is responsible for our own actions. Now, as I said, I do not wish to convert anyone or to lead anyone, just as I don't want anyone to lead me. Each man must evolve according to his own light. Now, I am just a vessel, a messenger. This is the vocation that I chose in this lifetime, one of the vocations. Okay, I'm honoring my self-soul contract and my Neptunian journey. And that is my contract with humanity and with the universe. I am just a vessel, a messenger, delivering messages from the collective. And the collective comprise my many guides and members of the higher hierarchies, including the angelic realm. And when I say the angelic realm, I'm not being presumptuous. It is just as it is. Each of us is able to communicate with the angelic realm, members of the angelic realm. Now, the messages that I have, they're truths. And so at times, they can be harsh. Because only by looking in that mirror of self-reflection, facing the truth can we move up that ladder of soul restoration. We have to face the truth, know what the problem is, so that we can do better. Sometimes that reflection is not so pretty. It's ugly sometimes. I know that. Now, as I said, I'm fulfilling my self-soul contract. Now, please do not freely interpret what I say. If you do not understand, feel free to ask me in a comment below or go to my website and send me a message. My email address is also listed below. So, please, once again, do not freely interpret what I say. If I say blue, I mean all shades of blue. I didn't say sky blue, marine blue, navy blue, royal blue. I said blue. Once again, that encompasses all shades of blue. And if I say that there's a tiny fish in a small aquarium, I mean a tiny fish in a small aquarium. Do not freely interpret, and by the time you repeat it to one person and, on and on and on until you get to the 10th person, that tiny fish has become a big old whale. And a whale is not even a fish, it's a mammal. And that small aquarium has become a vast ocean. Now, as I get my messages, I deliver them just as I get them. As my great-grandmother Ella would say, some get it, some sell it. And when I get those messages, I'm not going to face plant to deliver those messages, because the truth might be an offense, but it is not a spiritual mistake. And as my great-grandmother Ella would say again, me nah go put me mouth a ground fi talk. Left me, make me talk. At times I will discuss at length current events as I see fit, because they are relevant to the truth and the topic that I might be discussing concerning the truth, that is reincarnation and its many facts. Now, this is a very special time, one that I call the cup runneth over period, of one of those few periods of greater transitions. So it looks like end times, the apocalypse, Revelations, Armageddon, but it's not. We will move on. This one involves every single human being on this earth. It involves the climate. It involves everything. There are always smaller ones going on all the time, right? In different places. When I receive missions or visions, I will share them with you. Now, please do not forget the children in Gaza. Do not forget Gaza, because there is still no peace in Gaza, and the genocide and ethnic cleansing still continues there and in the West Bank. It is getting worse by the day and will no doubt soon break out full steam ahead as usual. In the fog of war, Israel is bent on realizing its aim, begun more than a century ago, even before Nazi Germany came into being. And the stated aim was the ethnic cleansing, even if it meant genocide of the Palestinian people. Now, as I said, this is their stated aim, the state of Israel, the Zionists. And they stated it in no uncertain terms that they would do so through, by, and with terror. They would terrorize the Palestinian people, in which they have continued to do for more than a century. Palestinians, however, refused to leave as they did in 1948, and they refused to die. In 1948, more than 750,000, 750,000 people, that's the Nakba, were ethnically cleansed from Palestine. This time, they refused to leave, and they refused to die. The main targets are children, and especially babies, of the Zionist regime in Israel. It's always been their main targets. The fact of the matter is that ethnic cleansing has now spread to Lebanon and perhaps genocide, parts of Syria, and they would like to try it in the Great Persia. They're doing it on the cheap, using the money, the arms, and the blood of Americans. Why are they able to do that? They run the State Department, they run foreign policy, they run the Pentagon. They're able to do it because of the corrupt American politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, black and white. I'm listing masks here because that's what we're going to talk about. Male and female, rich and poor. Once again, those are masks. And of course, the zealots, the Christofascists or evangelical zealots who believe they're still in the Crusades. They, the Zionists in Israel, are able to get away with all that. Take the arms, the money, and the blood of the American people to further expand and to create an empire build on the backs of Americans. Now, less than 7 million Zionist Israelis want to annihilate or subjugate more than 400 million Muslims. That includes the Christians who are also in those countries, Zoroastrians, Christians, and other faiths. They don't care. It's brown peoples. They label all of them as brown peoples. They want to subjugate and or annihilate them in West Asia, North Africa, and East Africa, because remember, Muslims are target. They're the target group in this particular period of transition. Now you can see my book and my videos dating back from early 2024 that outlined what has played out already, what is playing out now, and what has yet to play out. My videos, my books, my essays. Now, the crisis in Sudan, let us not forget that either. It is beyond horrific. More than 15 million people are now in famine. There's genocide, ethnic cleansing. Who's creating the mischief there? Who has their hands in that? Israel and the UAE. Libya, they're in there. The Horn of Africa, they're in there, creating mischief and mayhem. Now, please don't forget Yemen and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Don't forget all the children all over the world in zones of conflicts, large and small. Whether they're the children of the perpetrators like Israel, or the children of the victims like the Palestinian people or the Lebanese people. No child should suffer. Children, every child, has a right to food, shelter, good health care, education, water, fuel, the right to be loved, and the right to play. That includes all children. And I'll just add this. Have we seen the Europeans, the EU, how quickly in 2025 they were able to gather their ships to bomb the Houthis in Yemen, to open the Red Sea so that their ships with their goods could pass through. But no one was willing to get Israel in line to save the children in Gaza, and well, now the West Bank, in Lebanon, and of course Iran has been given a basket to carry water, and most people cannot tell you what Iran has ever done to them when they hate Iran with a passion. But it's all for those people who are leading. It's all about the oil and the fact that Iran stood up to them. Now, I don't agree with the repression and the harsh things done to citizens in Iran by its government. But we all need to do better and respect each other's human rights. But at the same time, Iran should not be given. They have gotten a raw deal from Europe and from America that the people of Iran do not deserve. Now, Europe, they hold no sway. They've lost their credibility. They have reaped what they sowed with their supremacist behavior. Not all. Spain stands out. And Israel will reap what it's sowing in Gaza, the mayhem that it's spreading, the disease and the skin diseases that are killing the children in Gaza right now. That is coming to Israel soon. I did say that. My guide showed me that. And they did say that the debt will soon come due from the billionaires and all those who support those atrocities and what the settlers are doing. The bill will soon come due, and their checkbooks will not be large enough to pay those debts. And America deserves to lose its hegemony, because all it has done, because there was no power to check it, has created and abused its power. And now the Manchurian regime that's there with these reincarnated Nazis, and see my other videos on the two faces of America. Yes, they are reincarnated Nazis. They're there, they're having a ball, making certain that that hegemony will indeed end. Now, let us get started on those masks that are so important in this earthly plane, but really irrelevant in the spiritual plane. And for me, that's the real world. So, remember now, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Now, in the first video, okay, I'm making two videos now. In the first video, this one, on the mask, we will look at the Lucifer Syndrome and the reason why we're here on earth, and the sole reason for the spiritual mistakes we make, the karmic debt that we incur, and the different types of masks. Now, in the second video, I will be discussing, which is part 2 of the mask, we will continue our discussion of the masks and how the knowledge of the masks invalidate our claim of historical grudges, prejudices, suffering, and victimhood, especially as excuses and reasons to hate one group or other and wage war. So let's get started now. I am gonna hold up some pictures. I don't know if you'll be able to see these pictures. Okay, that's one picture. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see this one. These two pictures, right? These are what I've gotten from magazines and stuff that come to me, okay? So you have this picture. It's an older person, older young lady. And we have this picture, those pictures, and this picture. See these pictures? Can you see them? I think so. I gotta get better at doing this. And you have all these pictures. Yes, see? You're almost done here. You have these pictures. These pictures. Now, I'm sure you can see something. I don't know how it will turn out. I suppose I will check it before I upload, but doesn't matter. But you can see enough. Now, I will ask you, I showed you the pictures and I'm sure you can see many differences, right? In those pictures of all those children and adults. What are they? Well, race. They're different races, different colors, different hair types. Some are in distress, and like the first one I showed you, that is a baby in Gaza. Starvation imposed by the state of Israel, and by the way, no aid is getting into Gaza still. No water. People have to line up. Little children who should be in school are playing, carrying little bottles or big bottles to get water. What cruelty. Barbarians. And we shouldn't use those sort of names, should we? So, we see all those different masks, and some seem to be, okay, like maybe middle class, and some are poor. These are all masked. Race, hair type, color of the skin, your status, whether you're rich or poor. These are all masked, and where you come from, and they come from all over the place. You could see they come from the continent of Africa, the continent of Asia, Middle East, and even Europe and Latin America. So these are all masks. However, with all those differences, if I took a needle or a pin and I pricked one of those children, big or small, black or white, brown, didn't matter the mask, each one would definitely bleed. And if none of them got food or water, they would die of starvation. Doesn't matter the mask. That is what I call the deep structure. Now, deep structure is a term they use in linguistics, getting to the basics of language, right? What's at the root of all language, so to speak. It's more than that, but anyhow. So if we get to that, the humanity in us, who we are, because we are all the same. Prick, you bleed. Starve, you die of starvation. No health care, you will die of disease, right? And if you give those children a ball. They will all play. And most of them, if you give them ice cream, an ice cream cone, they will all jump for joy once they know what ice cream is. And they will laugh, and they like when they can run and they hug their mummies, right? Hug mommy and, hug daddy. Every child, everywhere is like that. And every parent, every mother, no matter the masks, would like to be able to provide for their children. Doesn't matter where they are and who they are. So that's my introduction to you about the masks. That at the root of it all, they do not and should not matter. Now, I don't have the pictures here, but consider the politicians who govern in America or in Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. They're female. They're Catholic, like in Italy, right? Female in Italy. The head of the EU is female, and I think her second in command is also female. And we have Canadian female ministers. In America, we have females, we have males, we have people of different races, of their Indians, of the, you have black and white, as I said, Catholic and Protestant, English, Canadian, Australian, American, Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, extremists and moderates. Those are masks, and all these people of those different masks during the genocide in Gaza that is still ongoing, and what's going on in Lebanon, they were all callous. They're still callous, most of them. They do not see the humanity in the children and the babies in Gaza, in the West Bank, and now in Lebanon, or the school girls, the little girls and their backpacks in Minab, or the grandchild, I think she was 14 months old, of the late Ayatollah in Iran. They don't see they don't see humanity in them. They're subhumans. They don't value their lives as they would an Israeli child, or a European child, or an American child. They don't. They think it's okay, including Joe Biden, who's very sympathetic, or should I say empathetic, to people in distress, but he cannot see the humanity, could not see the humanity in the Palestinian child or baby. And so when he was at some event in 2024, early 2024 in Michigan with an ice cream cone, he could never imagine that a Palestinian child would love to have an ice cream cone, going out on a Sunday, walking with his or her parent, and would enjoy that. The masks, you see what the masks are? They're selective. We hate and we love and we segregate and we commit atrocities, and we have no empathy based on masks. Now, that was my introduction for the mask, so you understand now. Now, and I'm just going to add this. Palestinian women give birth, some on the streets, on the floors in hospitals that weren't being bombed, anywhere. And these women who speak about sisterhood and they stand up for the rights of women, they didn't think about what Palestinian women might be going through. They don't care, because Palestinian women are not women. They're not equal to Israeli women or white women, for example. And then doesn't matter about white, because you had, for example, the black African American U.S. ambassador to the UN, the one who ran out the clock, trying to run out the clock, so she would quibble about crossing already crossed T's and dotting already dotted I's that have been crossed and dotted so many times you've lost count. And for her, what happened, sexual assault on Palestinians, it doesn't compare to Israelis. And then we know there was a lot of fake news there. Doesn't compare. She's a black woman. She knows what it is. We'll discuss that. That suffering doesn't ennoble. And these masks, the mask we wear we are born with many masks. Each one of us has many masks. And we will always try to go to the one that has the most power. And we'll get to that. So, let me start reading now. Although all children will bleed if you prick them, or play if given the chance, and most of them are eager to learn, and they die if you starve them, thrive if we feed and love them. The masks determine life and death. Mothers in Gaza who have had to birth their children in tents on the floor in hospitals or on the rubbled streets are no different from Israeli mothers who are not subject to these conditions. These callous Western and Israeli entities, and I say entities, sometimes when I'm using soul, I will use entities. I'll even call myself an entity. See only the masks and see them as subhumans. And this includes women. The world says that, that's what the saying, I should say, goes, that if the world were run by women, we would live in a better world. Don't let anybody feed you that Kool-Aid. Women are just as cruel, power-hungry, or as kind and empathetic as their male counterparts. Women enable and facilitate what they call the patriarchy, the man's world where men rule. Women are the biggest bullies of other women in the workplace. These are backed up. What I'm saying here is backed up by data, by facts. The data prove that. And at the end of the day, and then just think about it too. Think about those two athletes in the last Olympics, those two boxers, one from Taiwan and of course one from Algeria. And these women, some of them who had, including that woman who wrote Harry Potter, she's obsessed with transgender people. And she was there in rather than use her platform and bully pulpit to be of good, do no harm. There she was leading the charge to pick on these women of color. They're white athletes, and some people would say look like they might be transgender. Who knows? Or I guess that's what they're going off. I guess they were the ones who gave birth to them, so that's why they're saying they're male, born male. They didn't pick on them. They picked on the colored ones because at the bottom of it, they are racist. And so you see women, bullies, great bullies, and picking on young people rather than standing up, lead by example, encouraging the youth. They bully them, traumatize them if they're not strong. Now, as I said, at the end of the day, our soul and its journey are who we are and will dictate our actions. We take the late Madeleine Albright, for example, Secretary of State during the Clinton administration. And when they asked her, do you realize that over 500,000 children will die because of the sanctions? Do you think that's worth it? All those deaths of children. And she said, yes, it's worth it. Now, this was a woman on in age, a grandmother, I suppose. And that's what she said. Yes, it's worth it. Or you have Hillary Clinton, champion of women. And she, using her platform as First Lady, championed and advocated for CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program that was sponsored by Orrin Hatch, Senators Orrin Hatch and Ted Kennedy. So that's good she did for children. However, for her, those pictures of children starving in Gaza, she said there's no starvation going on there. Everything is hunky-dory, and those are all, she knows better. She very well knows better. But she said that yes, they're using pictures and misinformation and fake news, pictures of children in Yemen. And that's, they hide behind those masks, trying to say it doesn't exist and it's fake news. And they very well know what Israel is doing. But you know, money, money. They're all greedy. That's what it's all about. Money and compromise sometimes. Mossad compromise. Now, these were women. What better world would we have in a world ruled by women? We wouldn't be in a better world. The soul and its journey is what matters, not the masks that we wear from one lifetime to another. Women helped to exploit other women in the, what was it, the Islamic State Caliphate, ISIS. Women help and are in the forefront of honor killings. They are also in the forefront of, what is it, female FGM. So the world would not be better or worse were it run by women. Now, our position on the ladder of soul restoration reflect who we are and not the masks which are irrelevant. None care about the children of Libya. Remember, they were going after with Gaddafi, and he was horrible. He had good ideas sometimes about, wanting to control your own resources, but at the same time, he was interested in becoming the king of Africa. Going after him, he was absolutely horrible. And they talk about Syria. They cared about the children in Syria, and they care about what's happening to the civilians in Iran. Lies. Because if they cared about them And let us take Iran. You wouldn't bomb Minab, bomb the infrastructure, bomb their bridges, bomb their hospitals, bomb their schools. Let us get real here. Don't listen to these liars. It's all about the oil. Stealing other people's resources and having power over them and subjugating them. That's what it's all about. Now, as I said, if they really cared about the civilians and rights, human rights in Iran, they would not have bombed the hospitals, the schools. Genocide and subjugation is their aim because they're all supremacists. And it doesn't matter what mask they wear, whether they're black, white, Catholic, European, American, doesn't matter the mask. Gender is not shown on the ladder of soul restoration. When we think about the netherworld, the spiritual realm, we say, well, yes, there's male and female and what, because that's what we understand through the prison of our senses. But in reality, no. In reality, no. And we see, for example, angels and archangels as male and female and what have you, but not really. When you go to the ancient, to the mists of time, it is not like that. But this is how we understand things, and so it is shown to us like that. Our soul does not reflect gender. It reflects our intentions and actions and the different journeys that we have been on. Now, the masks are the be-all and the end-all of our existence. They are our raison d'être, reason for being, like the truth that is reincarnation, the vehicle through and by which we expiate, purify our souls, right? Advance and restore our soul, bring equilibrium to our soul. So are the masks. These masks facilitate our quest and lust for power. They are the vehicle by which and through which we seek and obtain power. They provide the reasons or excuses in that quest and that lust for power. It is around and because of these masks that we incur karmic debt. These masks are arbitrary and irrelevant except as it concerns our soul contracts, of which there are 3 kinds of soul contracts, namely self-soul contract. And my battery's gonna go out. Let me try and get it. Sorry about that. So sorry about that. Yes, so there are namely 3 soul contracts: self-soul contract, the Venusian contract, and of course the Neptunian contract. And that is the contract that is between an individual or individuals and humanity and the universe. Understanding the masks and the soul's journey explain why empires rise, for example, and fall, and why historical grudges, prejudices, victimhood, and suffering are really non-existent, and why war has no descendant. And we'll cover all of this. So you see, the masks explain a lot of things. Now, let us go on now into the Lucifer Syndrome. That's what I call it, the Lucifer Syndrome. Now, Lucifer, well, we say Lucifer is the devil and what have you, but no, Lucifer is okay. but I will use it because we're used to saying it's Lucifer, he's the fallen angel. No, each of us is a fallen angel. Every single human being on this earth is a fallen angel because we strayed from our path in our quest for power and our arrogance and hubris. Now, selfishness is the cause, power the craving, and control the means by way of duplicity, corruption, fear, and greed. Once a man, twice a child, so the saying goes. In life's journey, power is but the man's stage. It is but fleeting. Doesn't last long. As fleeting as a flake of snow. Our selfishness incites us to fight for power. Power of the material affinities. What the great Maman loves, like the riches and, all the earthly pleasures. Power of them, but not over them. When we have power over, riches and gold and whatever, when we have power over those, then we know we have finished our journey, or almost finished our arduous journey back to our path, back to the Father. And so by doing, have control of and over our brothers. That's why we seek this power. That's part of the power thing. Now, this craving for power caused by our selfishness, which we shall refer to as the Lucifer Syndrome, manifests itself in many ways. The various spiritual mistakes or sins that tend to separate and segregate. And you can see my book, Another World Through the Eyes of the Soul. I call that my seed book on reincarnation. I will list it below, actually, along with some of the other books. And you can go on my website and go to books, and it's listed there, and it will take you to Amazon, where you can purchase it if you wish. Now, conflict, which includes war, is the ultimate result of this craving for power, as we try to usurp the free will of our brothers who refuse to willingly cede or surrender their free will. The amount of power in the world is constant, man to man, soul to soul. It never changes. Sort of like energy you create, but you can't really destroy, right? So it's constant. However, the scales tend to shift from one to the other, always trying to return to a state of equilibrium. Now, the degree to which we realize the power within us dictates how much power we have over the material affinities. I just said that. In other words, we control these affinities, this likeness, this tendency, the attraction to these things, right? These worldly things. They do not control us. The higher the degree of realization of this fact, the lower the tendency we will have to cede our powers, to give unto others our power. Each of us possesses the same amount of power within us, for all spirits are created equal in the eyes of the Creator. We were not born equal. That doesn't say one is better than the other. We're not born equal because we've been on different life journeys, right? We've had different karmic journeys with different vocations, different experiences. But it is not to say that any is better than the other. It's just that we're not born equal in the sense that we're all the same. We're not all the same because we have different talents and experiences and what have you. None better than the other. Now, it is against divine law, right? It is against the divine principles to cede, to give unto others our power. When we cede and give unto others our power, we are ceding, thereby ceding our free will to others. Likewise, it is against divine law to forcibly deny the free will of others. True power lies within us. It can only be achieved by expiating, advancing, and restoring our soul. And the only way to achieve this is by doing unto others as we would have them. That's what my guides say, them. Do unto us love. The unconditional love of self and our brothers, the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man. True power lies in the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of our existence, the purpose of our existence, and our position in the grand scheme of things, in the universe, our relationship with the Creator. That's something that is greater than us. Now, who cares what name you give that something that is greater than us? Our brothers and the universe. The knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the truth of reincarnation, the history of our souls, and karma will enable us to attain Christhood. Now, I use Christhood because I think of Christhood as perfection. It is not to say that I'm advocating for any particular religion, Christianity, for example. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just using that term as perfection. They explain, right, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the truth of reincarnation. Explain the reason for our earthly, corporal existence. This knowledge explains why things were the way they were in the past, are now in the present, and determine how they can be in the future. The power of the material affinities is but fleeting, doesn't last long, and will not enable us to defy the force of gravity and walk on the waters. It will not enable us, right, to heal with the touch of our hands, right? Having all this material stuff and being attracted only to the material world. Once again, it will not enable us to solve the problems of mankind, of which there are so many. Once again, we reiterate, and I'm reiterating here, okay? Because these are excerpts from my book. So we use we because I'm speaking with my guides. That the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the truth, that is reincarnation, the history of our souls and karma will empower us. Unfortunately, it is these facts that are hidden and distorted by the few who we have allowed to hijack us. We have ceded our free will, transferred power to inanimate objects, things such as corporations, institutions, and forgotten that the true power lies deep within our soul. And that is true. In this earthly plane, in our societies, governments and corporations and institutions have the power. Why should they have the power? We might add here that money is one of those inanimate things that has a direct relationship with the amount of power we believe we possess in this material world, the earthly realm, leading us to believe that it is the root of all evil. But it is not. Money is not the root of all evil. Don't feel guilty if you have money and if you are rich. Why should you? You should not. It is what you do with that money. That is what will be the tell-all, right? Money is not the root of all evil because it is inanimate. It cannot walk. It cannot talk or animate itself. It needs a puppeteer. It needs an actor or an animator. We are the actor, the person with the money. Therefore, our actions will determine whether or not that money is used for the greater good or to do harm. There is nothing, as I said, inherently incorrect when we have money. It gives us independence and a certain agency in the material world. Once again, when we do have that agency, will we overindulge in decadence? Hoard like dragons, dragons, they have hoarding syndrome. Usurp the free will of others, as we see with these brothers who are trying to buy out all the media landscape and dictate, and the other ones, these other brothers who want to control all the waterways and all the resources and the whole of North America, all the way up to Greenland, Canada included, from South America up. These brothers is what you do with the money, and that's what they want to do with their money, to make us all serfs, right? They're slaves. It is what we do with that money. Do we hoard it like dragons, overindulge in decadence, usurp the free will of others, and do harm? Or will we use it to empower and help those in need to make our brothers' lives better? And I believe, if we did our job as politicians and governments, we would have less need for charity. And as I discussed, one of my guides, Umar the Great, he didn't believe. He was the second caliph after the death of Muhammad. And he didn't believe in chopping off people's hands if they stole. Because he said if he did his job, he would have provided, as the caliph, if he did his job, he would have provided enough employment so people would not have to steal. And it's like they say in Jamaica, if poor are no crime, then thief are no crime. In other words, poverty, if it is not a crime, then you should not label someone who steals, has to steal because he's poor to feed his family, should not be labeled a criminal. And so Umar the Great, man of justice, you can check my other video, he believed that if he did his job, there would be no need for anyone to steal. Now, and again, in charity, we have to know how we do charity. It's not just give. We must, in charity, help to teach someone, not just give them the fish, teach them how to fish. Teach them, not just give them the corn. Yes, you need to feed them when they're hungry. Give them the strength and teach them how to plant so that they will get even more corn. That's what I believe charity should entail for the large part as well. Now, as I said, in helping others, we do not mean just to give others, as I was saying, the corn, but rather show them how to plan, prepare the fields, plant the corn, care for it, harvest it, and feed themselves, their families, and their communities. And by that, we don't mean to give seeds and what have you to farmers, as they're doing in a lot of the global south, and these farmers become so in debt that, like they can't afford anything. Now, in other words, help others to help themselves. To the eyes of the soul, it is the Lucifer syndrome that has led to the corruption of our soul. The Lucifer syndrome has led us to forget that we are eternal spiritual beings experiencing temporary human life and not human beings experiencing spiritual life. There are many masks behind which the Lucifer syndrome hides, and many symptoms that it exhibits. The Lucifer syndrome highlights our superficial, fake, on the surface differences which started randomly, such as color, race, and geographical location. It thrives on these differences, often leading us to create even more differences, magnifying them. It runs away from the commonality of who we are. Divine sparks, eternal spiritual beings, first and foremost, as is seen through the eyes of the soul, arising out of the one spark, for all souls were created equal. The Lucifer syndrome, now selfishness, has resulted in not all men being born equal, but with different talents and experiences due to our different karmic journeys, because of the different karmic debts that we have incurred. And some of us, of course, do not want to move up the ladder, so we sit there on the lower rungs, but eventually we'll get tired of it and start doing the work to move up. To regain that equality that was at creation, we must expiate, advance, and restore our soul, and that is through reincarnation. Sorry, again. As previously mentioned, the Lucifer syndrome hides behind many masks that are used to separate and to segregate our superficial differences. Masks are never inclusive, but serve to exclude. Let us consider the concept of hell and heaven. According to most sects of Christianity and other religions that believe in an afterlife of heaven and hell, the bad ones, the sinners, are going to hell, but the good ones are going to heaven. Here we see that there is separation, segregation, and exclusion, and we try to do that even in the afterlife. As a shaman, I can tell you, forget it. That is just figment of your imagination. The former are better, right? So, those who have been good will be rewarded with eternal life in heaven, to the exclusion of the bad ones, who will be condemned to eternal damnation in hell. The former, those are the good ones, are better, supreme to the latter supremacist ideology and practices. Heavens forbid, no pun intended here, that any of us should dare to believe that heaven and redemption are for all of us, excluding none. Of course not. This exclusivity or exclusionary line of argument is similar to the one used by Theodora. She was the queen of Emperor Justinian, and they're very important in Christian theology and the Bible, and let me read. During the Synod of Constantinople in 543 CE, you can read my book for more information and references. They could not imagine that they, emperor and empress, would have the same fate as the commoner, the peasants. Therefore, they declare the concept of reincarnation and the writings of Origen. He's an original church father. An original church father, they considered his writings anathemas because he kind of suggested the whole thing about reincarnation in a way. Reincarnation was earlier in 325 CE at the Nicene Council. Now, Theodora and Justinian failed to realize that the masks we wear and our titles and positions matters not. Once we return to the spiritual world, it is our deeds that matter. Once again, it is not who we were, what we put on, but what we put out. What did we do? It is not, let's take Nefertiti and Akhenaten and the great power they had. It is not the fact that they were Nefertiti and Akhenaten, and now of course they've become very popular. They were erased, their names were erased, if you want to put it that way, from history and from the Aisha tree, and I'll get into that in my other book. They were erased for like over 3,000 odd years. But now, they stand there in history, but it is not her beauty, or the monotheism that they tried to advocate. It is not that, it's how they did it and what they did. And you have to look in the cemeteries in Akhenaten and the children who were worked to death, literally worked to death, having arthritis at 8 years old because of carrying all that weight, those stones not being properly fed. And that was one thing in a lot of the old kingdom. The workers were properly fed. It's what they did. Right? It's what they did. Now, around these masks, we incur much karmic debt. Religion, systems, and politics, with their many offsprings, including nationalism, are masks of this separation and segregation syndrome, masks of our selfishness, in addition to religious systems and politics, political persuasion, race, social status, economic status, ethnicity, geography, professions and vocations, gender, sexual orientation, and languages are other masks behind which hides the Lucifer Syndrome. Some of us, the leaders, the few, use the different masks to instigate conflicts and wars to control, gain power, and enrich ourselves, satisfying our craving for power, while others among us, the many, allow ourselves to be controlled by ceding our free will and blindly following others, thereby satisfying the same craving for power caused by selfishness. Now, I had to give you that because power, I had to explain power in order for you to understand, because that's what the masks are used for. Power. To seek power and to obtain power. Now, each of us wears more than one mask in each lifetime, any given lifetime. We wear the masks of gender, sexual orientation, race, color, ethnicity, nationality, citizenship, native language, religion, age group, political persuasion, social status, education, economic status, all at once. We allow these masks to define our earthly existence. Religion systems and or political ideology can combine one or more of the other masks, as we see in theocracy. With religion, okay, so that's what you call theocracy, politics and religion. Excuse me, I'll have a drink. I think that might help my throat. Now, as I said, politics is the I call it the super blender mask, or the ultimate super mask, because it is the mask to which all other masks attach themselves to gain the levers of power. Our entire existence in this earthly plane involves politics. Politics is a part of every aspect of our existence on both the micro and macro level. So the small level, like within, say, like the family, macro, you expand out from in the home, school, work, to government. The power embodied in a mask will change. So how powerful a mask is, that changes, not constant. The power of a mask depends on the context and the time period in which we find ourselves. So for example, religion before, for example, the racialization of slavery was more important than race, right? In the West. In other words, it depends on what the biggest elephant in the room is, what you notice first at that moment or time period. For example, in different contexts, the masked religion will supersede the masked race. I just said that. The masked religion, Muslim or Jewish, supersedes race in many contexts. The importance of one mask as opposed to another is fluid. Just like the whole concept of race is fluid, and will shift according to what is more advantageous to the majority or the more powerful gaining or maintaining power. Power, it's all about power. For example, the poor of all color or races might have more in common with each other than the wealthy of their respective race or color. So the poor white man normally has more in common with the poor black man than he does with the rich white man, or that the poor black man has with the rich black man. In America, that's a little different because, you know, when it comes to race, that's their thing. They're the experts, and not in a good way, in a very, very bad way, and that is what is destroying them. It will eventually destroy that society unless they get a hold of themselves. But they're going backwards, not forwards. But we will see. To prevent a union of the poor and perhaps a revolt against the wealthy will divide and conquer by appealing to the urge to feel that someone else is less than we are, win by association or racism and stereotype. You feel close. Oh, I'm part of that clique. But they wouldn't let you in their homes. They wouldn't even let you walk in their street, but you feel good. Feel good by association. Thus convincing the poor of one race or color that we are a cut above the other. In this way, the powerful will remain powerful and will not be challenged. In America, the land where racism was refined, purified, and sanctified, we see that race more often than not trumps class. The rich black man has to watch his back because even the poor white man will sometimes have the power to disempower him. That is, disempower the rich black man. Such is the power of race in America and its anti-black racism. Because of our cravenness for power and control, we have the incessant urge to separate, segregate, and exclude. Consequently, each mask has many subsets, which for some seems infinite, dividing one mask into other different masks goes on forever. And I'll explain that in a bit. The importance of the order in their hierarchy is dictated by the amount of power that can be obtained from each one in a given society, each one of those subsets, lifetime or situation. For example, mask, race, black subdivides into subset mask, color. And then that mask color subdivides in masks, brown, black, light brown, ginger brown, high yellow, and the list goes on. Mask Jew subdivides into Ashkenaz, Sephardi, Mizrahi, Hasidic, with subset Zionists can be attached to each one or Israel to each one, and they combine. Another example is mask Christian to Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, Coptic, Maronite. Protestant has thousands of sects, including Baptist, which itself can be subdivided into 27 subsets. So Baptist has over 27 subsets. The masks of religion and politics are the masks that are the keys to the lever and are the levers of power. Politics is the main, as I said before, key, no matter the type of government that governs a society, whether it is the different types or levels of government, including monarchies, republics, city-state, empires, village, and municipal. Politics combines, as I said before, many masks and might be referred to, as I said, the ultimate blender of masks, super mask, the super blender of masks. It is through politics that we gain power, whether on a macro or micro level, be it in the government of a country or in the home or on the job. When religion is added to that governing body, it becomes even more potent, more powerful, especially when the divine, the creator, that's something that is greater than us, is believed to be embodied in the king. We think that the king is a direct intermediary or a god, right? Leader or party. Theocracies as well as democracies and political parties that claim they speak on behalf of God, or that the people claim manifest destiny, or that they are the chosen people. No group has any divine right to any parcel of land. What kind of cruel or short-sighted God would bequeath land that might disappear under seas and oceans covered by lava, or become uninhabitable because of drought, earthquakes, frost, or otherwise? Now, masks through the spiritual and temporal lenses. Masks may be viewed through spiritual and temporal lens. So the spiritual world, or in our world, the earthly, through our senses: sight, smell, taste, hear, feel. The spiritual concerns that which is of the spirit, our eternal essence, as previously discussed. Now, the spiritual view is the eternal and most important view. And in that view, masks are not important. The spiritual lens sees beyond the prison of our senses. It is free of all hindrances. This is the view of the deep structure, the real view. Masks are viewed through the spiritual lens, through the eyes of the soul. Through the eyes of the soul, masks are impermanent. They don't last, right? They change and do not travel with us from one lifetime to another, except if it is relevant to the journey for various reasons, as we will discuss later. Now, there is no historical lineage or continuum to the mask we wear in a given lifetime. In other words, there are no ancestral ties. So I will speak about my ancestors going back 1500 years, but it really doesn't exist, right? Because when I think about it, my grandmother in this lifetime was actually my mother in my Tudor lifetime in England. Now, in other words, there are no ancestral ties, as I said. There are no familial, racial, ethnic, religious, or other ties to the past or future lifetimes. This is why we can have different relationships, as I just said, between the same souls or entities from one lifetime to another. We can be father and son in one lifetime, wife and husband, or friendly neighbors in another. For example, the entity Carol, okay, I will say that's me, has shared lifetimes with the same entity as husband and wife, orphan sisters, brother and sister, rivals in war, acquaintances who never speak, as one was slave and butler, and the other guest in the house, unmarried lovers and best friends. With another entity, right? This entity, Carol, let's say that's me, has shared lifetimes, twice as mother and son, and once as sister-in-law, and yet with another, daughter-in-law and father-in-law, and father and daughter. The last example we will mention is the murderer, my murderer, in one lifetime, who became my mother in a subsequent lifetime, in this lifetime. When we can view the masks we wear through the spiritual lens, we will be less prone to incur karmic debt, to commit spiritual mistakes, and then we have to come back and resolve all these problems, especially in groups. We will see the fallacy in historical grudges, prejudices, suffering, and victimhood, meaning historical grudges, like one country. Germans are against Russians, and it goes on for hundreds of years, and we continue, and then war breaks out, and then periodically, and all of this stuff. It's all nonsense. When you go into the nitty-gritty through the eyes of the soul, you understand that that's not how it works. And I showed that when I spoke about Benjamin Netanyahu being Julia Gumbos in Hungary, the Hungarian prime minister who died because he was sick early, and he was a rabid, virulent anti-Semite, and now he has reincarnated as a Jew. So you can check that video out, and my books listed below, Two Faces, Hitler's Aryan Paradise, for example, right? You can check that out. And my book's Thoughts on the Past, Volume 2, explains all that. So, what we have here is the temporal concerns, that which is of the earth. These concerns are temporary and really do not necessarily return with us back to the spiritual realm. The temporal lens cannot see beyond the prison of our senses: sight, smell, hearing, feeling, tasting. Masks viewed through these lenses, sight, smell, our senses, are our ancestral ties. The concept of ancestors is really of the earth, and our sojourn as human beings, eternal spiritual beings experiencing temporary human life. These masks tie us to others sharing the same masks or masks, such as family, community, race, country, language, and socioeconomic status. It is through this lens, the temporal lens, that we can allot the historical lineage and continuum to mass, to lay claim to greatness, to say that we are great because, I come from this race and we invented this, own incorrect deeds that we try to disown, right? But we give unto others the incorrect deeds, but we own the greatness of civilization, but never the destruction. And we weaponize these historical grudges, prejudices, suffering, and victimhood to incur karmic debt. I am going to end video 1 here, the first part here, and as usual, I will end with this. Thank you for visiting my channel. Please do not forget to subscribe, give a thumbs up for like, share, and leave a comment. And as usual, I like to end with this. None of us is without blemish. And although I appear harsh, I must deliver the messages as I get them. What I do and the collective, as harsh as we sound, wish that all of us would do better and recognize that we are all brothers. Hate, hitching a ride. Hate, a contagion, a cancer metastasizing, an opportunistic bacteria, the cloud waiting to block the sun. Hate, waiting to hitch a ride on the train of love. Hate, the rat on its rat passage, hitching a ride on the boat to the plague. Hate, the bedbug waiting for our suitcase. Hate, the roach riding on our coattails. Hate, the shadow always lurking behind, sometimes longer than us. Hate, just lurking behind the thin curtain, waiting for its turn on center stage to take us to a place not so far away, a blast back from civilization to barbarism, from knowledge back to ignorance, from wisdom back to imprudence. Hate never takes a holiday, always looking for the opportunity to hitch a ride on the train of love. Hate inhabits the same house as love within us. None of us is without blemish. All of us live in glass houses. We are all brothers in this brotherhood of man. God the Creator, that's something that is greater than us, has no chosen few. He gave unto us the vehicle that is reincarnation to help us bring our souls back into equilibrium. That's something that is greater than us. It's not vindictive, selective, or supremacist in ideology and practices. That's something that is greater than us, bequeath unto none of us lands. That's something that is greater than us, if he did that, would be short-sighted, cynical, and cruel, because seas and oceans rise, drown, and cover lands. Volcanoes erupt and cover lands with lava and ashes, and earthquakes swallow us and our belongings. No. Do not believe anyone who feeds you that Kool-Aid that God gave a group, any parcel of land. We cannot fight for or on behalf of that something that is greater than us. That something that is greater than us does not need us to fight. That is arrogance. We're all tenants on this earth, not here to have dominion or to rule over anything or anyone. We're not here to have dominion over the fowl of the air, or the fish in the sea, or the beasts in the fields. We are not here to rule and have dominion or supremacy over our brothers. Let us be good tenants. Let us take care of each other and ourselves. Let us trod ever so lightly and take care of this planet we call Earth and all the creatures that dwell thereon. Remember that there is something greater than us. That is the fatherhood of God. We respect and show our love for that something that is greater than us by taking care of ourselves, the planet, and each other. May we never try to flee our conscience so that we will always do correct actions. May we learn to walk a mile in our brother's shoes so that we can see the humanity in each other. May we respect the differences in each other and know that our Creator has no chosen few. May we find comfort in the knowledge that each of us is slated for redemption and none is excluded. May we find solace in the knowledge that it is not a question of if, but one of when each of us shall return to our Father. May we know that we are just tenants on this earth and take care of each other. The earth and all the creatures that dwell thereon. May we always adhere to the divine principles of the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, doing unto others as we would have them do unto us, love. That which I do unto my brother, I do unto myself, for I am what? I am my brother's keeper. May the tiny shrouds of light forever illuminate our path through the dark. May peace forever reside within us and between us. One divine, universal love.